Thanks, Tatiana. Now, the Prime Minister has said that the American XL Bully Dog is a danger to our communities and plans to ban the breed by the end of the year.
This comes after a series of dog attacks in the past few weeks, injuring several people, including an 11-year-old girl. This week, a man has died following a dog attack in Staffordshire.
The decision has been backed by campaign groups and the Labour Party and Baron Baker of Dorking, who put the Dangerous Dogs Act on the statute books over 30 years ago.
Well, the Dog Trust says banning all American Bully XL breeds is unfair and would punish well-behaved pets. So is banning the answer, or should we be addressing their owners instead?
Well, we're joined now by Robert Alleyne, founder of Canine Instructor Academy. Great to have you here this morning. So is it the dogs? Is it the dogs, or is it the owner, a bad owner and a bad breeder causing these problems?
Well, you know, large, potentially aggressive dogs are not a new thing. We've always had them. There's always been large dogs. That's not been the problem. Dogs didn't suddenly start attacking people. What we've got is lots of the wrong type of people picking the wrong type of dog. Then they don't educate that dog correctly. And so, of course, then the dog becomes potentially dangerous. But the dog's not just born with this desire to attack people. And if you look at bull breeds as a whole, they tend to be very good with people. They're not always good with other animals, but they tend to be very good with people. But if you take the wrong dog and give it to the wrong person, then you're going to have a problem. So the solution is not banning breeds. We'll just keep adding more breeds to the list as more irresponsible people get them. Well, what we should do is what we do with every other law, which is punish the offender.
You say that, Robert, but from what I've read, half of these XL Bully dogs in Britain are descendants of one killer inbred pet from the US, Killer Kimbos, I think they were called, that's produced generations of violent animals. So isn't it reasonable for the government to take swift and decisive action to protect the public when there is such a problem with these particular breeds?
Well, but if we take that as true, that a large number of them are descended from this dog, that doesn't justify then punishing them all, because even by that definition, half of them are not descended from him. So we say, well, we'll just punish them all because some of them are going to be potentially very bad. And we don't do that in any other case. We punish the offender. If I go out and stab somebody with a knife, you don't ban knives. You punish me for stabbing someone. And I think the same should be true with dogs. Loads of dogs who have never done anything or are likely to do anything end up, what we saw with the pit bull. I mean, I used to be the animal welfare officer for my local authority, and part of my job involved seizing what were considered to be illegal dogs. And I had to put to sleep litters of puppies, 6-7-week-old puppies, simply because the law had decided they were the wrong breed. And some of those puppies would have grown up to be lovely dogs given the chance. I had to seize dogs that had wonderful temperaments and have owners sobbing while I put their dog to sleep. Now, where else in law do we punish you before you've ever actually done anything wrong? I think this is a mistake. And what we should do is what we've always done, which is punish the guilty.
My concern is they don't even know what the definition is of an XL Bully dog. So how do you go about banning or destroying dogs that you don't actually know who is one? Or what is one?
Well, that's a very good point, because if we look back at what happened with the pit bull terrier, what the law said was, if I, as an officer, decide your dog looks like a pit bull terrier, I can charge you, and you have to be able to prove that it isn't. Well, of course, how will an owner do that? Because they're crossbreeds, there's no DNA testing you can do to prove it's a particular breed or not breed, because it won't have that DNA because it's in effect a crossbreed. So what they did with the pit bull was they just came up with a set of measurements and said, if your dog fits these measurements, then it's a pit bull. But what they were finding was things like, if you crossed a Labrador with a boxer, you got a dog that looked like a pit bull. And if it fit those measurements, you would potentially have your dog destroyed because it fit those measurements, not because it necessarily had any of those breeds in it. So there are so many inherent flaws in this theory that I 100% get why people are screaming for a ban, but it won't solve the problem any more than it solved it with the pit bull. That came out in 1991. Just this week, I had somebody ringing me up about their pit bull that's growling at their baby. In 23 years, it hasn't eradicated the breed, and the same will happen here. So what we really should be doing is creating better education for the sort of people that go out and get them. But if that person then chooses to do something negligent with their dog, and if we look at that terrible case with that man who died yesterday, where was the owner? The reason those dogs killed him was because they were out of the control of the owner. If you ban those dogs or put them to sleep, Next week, that same irresponsible owner just goes out and gets another dog.
Robert-
It doesn't solve the problem. You need to do is punish him.
Robert, Alleyne, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning and giving us your expert opinion. We did a Twitter poll on this earlier on today and said, was the Prime Minister right to ban them? 77% said yes, 23% said no. I wonder if people might have a different opinion after hearing what Robert had to say. I'm rather persuaded by what Robert has to say. I'm obviously in a minority yet again.